Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
You're looking for JJ. You and I already discussed here. Addison's gone for a couple of games here. They don't really have a number 3. Thielen, fine. You do have a nice tight end here. The running game could be solid here. Like I said, I don't think he'll have the least productive season of his career. If the question was how it should have been with the injuries, I might have said yes, because then it would be 88, 1,407. So then I might have said yes.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay. I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Commercials are coming to NFL Red Zone, plus are more NBA teams skirting the salary cap as being alleged against the Clippers. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Darryl Barnes. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm filling in for Renee. Every weekday, we chat the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We've got tennis legend Sam Smith to talk on his iconic Adidas shoe and more. But first, let's dive into the headlines on the shoot-around.
Yes, indeed, Darren. Let's start with Ohio State's big victory over then number 1 Texas last weekend. Was the most watched Week 1 college football game ever. Period. With over 16 million people tuning in to watch the game on Fox, Darryl. That number is nearly identical to last year's Georgia-Texas SEC championship. It is also higher than any regular season game all of last year, but 5 college football broadcasts in the playoff last year, which is just insane. I think it has to be the matchup, given the fact that you had Ohio State, the defending national champions, against number 1 Texas.
And there was a couple other storylines that were really big to pay
yes,
attention to, right?
Thing
the beginning
everything.
of Arch Manning, his era, his starting spot, and then the Portnoy and Ohio State, controversy. I think those were 2 big draws that definitely contributed to this giant game.
Right, and by the way, we're still waiting what the ratings will be for Bill Belichick's big game for North Carolina, what his debut is going to be, but it seems like almost every big game this year is going to be outrating the other one. It seems like there's a lot of attention right now in college football. Meanwhile, the New York Giants are selling a 10% stake of the team to the Koch family, with Bloomberg reporting it would value the Giants at $10 billion. That would surpass the record of $6 billion that Josh Harris paid to buy the Washington Commanders back in 2023. And the deal would still need to be approved by league owners, likely during their next meeting in October. The Mara and the Tisch families have owned the Giants since its founding in 1925. They still, Darryl, would stay the majority owners of the team.
Yeah, I think that the big question on everyone's mind is if the Giants, who aren't very good right now, let's just put it how it is, if they're going for $10 billion, right, their valuation is $10 billion, how much would that valuation be for the Dallas Cowboys?
Right, true. Which, by the way, there's been a lot of reported valuations of the Cowboys, maybe $10 to $12 billion, which I think, if anything, shows you can't take those valuations from a lot of other websites and places at face value, given the fact that a lot of those sites had pegged the Giants at being less than $10 billion. But if anything, the Mara family and the Tisch family, when they bought the team, I think was like $500 back in 1920. So 100 years later, that $500 investment is now worth $10 billion, which is just crazy to think about.
Talk about that on growth in your investment money back.
Yeah, no joke. Well, the NBA might have found its new All-Star format, as ESPN's Shams Charania is saying that the 2026 game could see a tournament of 3 8-player teams, 2 USA teams, and 1 world team playing each other in a 12-minute quarter game. Now, Shams says the NBA and the Players Union presented that format to the league's competition committee to a mostly positive response. Now, the NBA has been trying to find new ways to increase viewership of the All-Star game. That after last year's 4-team single elimination tournament drew some pretty mixed reviews.
So I think the NBA was like, why not take a page out of the NHL's book, because their 4 nations format really outrated some regular season games for the NHL.
Yes, exactly, and especially because the NBA is an international league. Think of a world team of Jokic, Giannis, Wemby, Luka Doncic. Like that is what people want to watch. And to your point about the 4 nations tournament, that outrated everything during the regular season, and it got politicians from President Trump involved in everything. So I think that this is a smart move, to your point, also during the Olympics. I think that'll help. Well, the NFL kickoff is officially here as the Eagles look to defend their Super Bowl title. And with some smart accounting practices, the Eagles have been able to construct a roster of superstars while not impacting their cap. So does this mean the Eagles are a real threat for years to come? Let's take a look at that in our main event. All right, let's bring in Tim McManus, ESPN's Eagles reporter. Tim, very big day for you, of course, and the Eagles as well. And the Eagles opening their season as one of the favorites to defend their title. So how likely could we actually see a repeat here?
We know the Eagles are doing everything they can to make the possibility as high as they can. And Coach Nick Sirianni has really taken the lead in that. He's consulted with all sorts of champions from various sports. And we're talking whether it's college basketball, pro basketball, even some sprinters. Like he'll talk to anyone to figure out, like, all right, once you've reached the summit, how do you then reshape it so that you can have sustained success moving forward? So that's something that he's done. A quarterback, Jalen Hurts, has done the same thing. He's had multiple times where he's spent time with Michael Jordan. Of course, they both are part of the Nike brand, and so that's brought them together. And, Hurts took those opportunities to ask, what was it? Like, how were you able to keep repeating that? And so they've done their homework. And then, of course, it comes down to, all right, do you have the talent? Well, that's a check. And then are you going to have the health that's necessary? And that becomes the big unknown. But I would say, they're as stacked as any team in the NFL. I think that they're coming in with the right mentality. Like, as we talk about the opener against the Cowboys, Nick Sirianni said that they're not even going out on the sideline to watch the banner be revealed. So that's all part of this mentality that they're trying to bring to the table to ensure that they're only focused on what's ahead of them.
And I want to talk about the reason why they're so stacked, right? It's not just the guys on the field, but it's also the guys in the front office. The Eagles are taking advantage of this kind of financial loophole that's allowing them to kind of punt these large contracts, larger parts of the contract, to the ends of that contract. I mean, talk me through how this is working, and then also, is this a strategy that other teams may try and copy?
Well, this is a perfect day to have that conversation, because you have the Dallas Cowboys on one side, and we've seen that they have taken their star players all the way to the cusp at the end of their contracts and have had to pay them the highest point at that moment. Or in the case of Micah Parsons, they ended up coming to a clash and ended up trading him, and the numbers just got out of control. The Eagles have a much different approach. What they try to do is they identify who their pillars are, who their star players are, the ones that they want to build around. And as soon as they become eligible for contracts, so that's after their 3rd year, they immediately go in and try to extend them long term. So what that does is it gets them, because we see the salary cap goes up and up every year. And so if you are proactive there, then in like 2-3 years, you look at the numbers that these guys are in at. And even though it looked crazy at the time, like Jalen Hurts and $50 million, very quickly you see that number per year doesn't look as nuts as it does. And, because the cap just continues to go up. The NFL is a huge business, as we all know, and there's so much money pouring in. So they're very smart in that respect. The other thing that they have going for them is an owner in Jeffrey Lurie who will spend cash. And the reason that that's a big deal is because if you're getting cash up front, it allows them to have the signing bonuses that then from a salary cap purpose, you can prorate. So it goes across the length of a deal. And so all of a sudden, those salary cap numbers, even though you have a lot of star players who are making a lot of money, from a salary cap year over year standpoint, that number is down and it's spread out over the course of it. So if you're operating that way, where you have a strategic front office that is thinking long term, and you have an owner that's willing to facilitate that by giving cash, then you have a situation where you're able to basically run laps around a lot of the other owners and a lot of other teams around the league that aren't doing the same thing.
Tim, with the 90 seconds we got left with you, your colleague Adam Schefter had this big report this morning that the Eagles actually inquired about Micah Parsons for a trade. The Cowboys apparently didn't want to trade within the division. But how likely and interested were the Eagles really in Micah Parsons here?
Yeah, well, interested, absolutely. The Eagles are always going to look at difference-making players, and they had a position of need at edge rush, and so Parsons would have fit that really nicely. Parsons is also from the area. He went to Penn State. He's good friends with Saquon Barkley. If you look online, it's basically like it's an inevitability. At some point, Micah Parsons will become a Philadelphia Eagle. But, from the Cowboys' perspective, it's tough enough to get rid of a star player. To do that in division has to be a non-starter. And so even the Cowboys haven't operated most smoothly this offseason with their decision-making. They knew better than to deal him to Philadelphia, because it just would have been bedlam.
Oh my God, the storylines for that, if that would have happened. Tim McManus, thank you so very much for joining us here on Front Office Sports today.
Good to be with you.
All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We have a lot more show ahead, including tennis legend and fashion icon Stan Smith talking about his famous Adidas shoe. That's next.
No better place to be than SportsGrid. College football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, right side for the entire season, Joe, on Saturday. This is your place. This is your place to be, Joe.
I love it. I tell you. And it's flying. Show's flying. We're on an hour already. I can't wait. We're licking our chops for these Rat Pack games. And it's a great slate.
Look at you on the screen right now.
Look like a little rat.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year, and I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
And welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Darryl Barnes. I'm Baker Machado. Well, who is Stan Smith? You might know that name from the famous Adidas shoe. Tennis fans might know him as the Wimbledon and U.S. Open champion, but he's also a civil rights and fashion icon as well. This is a new documentary produced by LeBron James and Maverick Carter and sponsored by P.C. Richard & Son, is now streaming on Hulu and ESPN+, and it seeks to answer that big question, Darryl. Who is Stan Smith? So let's find out exactly who Mr. Stan Smith is by bringing in the legend Stan Smith. Stan, thank you so very much for joining us here on Front Office Sports today.
Well, it's nice to be with you.
By the way, I have about 7 pairs of your iconic shoe, and I know that is small compared to a lot of other people, including yourself. What is it about this shoe that was constructed in 1965, Stan, that has lasted so long as a fashion staple?
You know, people ask me that all the time, and I'm probably not the right person to ask because I have my own opinions. But people buy them because I think they're very simple. They're white. They're actually they're all different colors, but they're comfortable. They're a good price point, and it goes with any clothes you want to wear. My favorite is to see men with tuxedos wearing the white shoes, or women with their finest dresses, wearing the shoes. I know there's several weddings that I've seen and receptions where the women have put on those shoes, either for the wedding or just after the wedding.
So then, shoes aside, what does this documentary then tell us, the viewers, about you and about tennis?
Well, the director was Danny Lee, and he did a great job in sort of piecing together all the things that I've been involved in over the years, obviously with tennis, and then with involvement with with Arthur Ashe and the Davis Cup team, and Mark Mathabani, who came from South Africa, and a number of other things we worked on during those times. State Department tours of Africa, of Southeast Asia, going to Vietnam, and there's a lot took place over those years.
I mean, Stan, you've lived such an incredible life and have seen so many things over the course of your life. I want to get back to the fashion and the brand aspect about tennis. What do you think it is about tennis that makes it so susceptible to big brands, from Hugo Boss to Rolex to all these other big brands, and fashion companies want to work with them, even Adidas too?
I think that people are into sports. They the shoes and the fashion has sort of moved from sports into everyday life, and you very seldom see people not wearing tennis shoes around the street. Even in business, you'll see people with their suits, or women with their dresses, and so it's become a very comfortable thing. It's more casual, and people feel comfortable wearing those shoes.
Yeah. What do you think of all the higher end brands now also entering into the tennis space, and what does that say about what's the key to making kind of the most successful deal, or a deal that'll last so long or be so successful like your shoe?
Well, I think the fact that all these different companies are jumping in and making shoes that look a lot like mine. I talked to Roger Federer about his shoe, and I said, it's a little too much like mine. I know Adidas has actually sued a couple of companies because it's almost exactly like my shoes. So it's an issue, but I guess that's it. That whole idea of imitation is part of flattery, and I don't know, but it's funny to see how many shoes that look a lot like mine now.
Well, it's very true. And Stan, you were really sort of the first to sort of be an athlete to get one of these brand deals. What's the key to a successful brand deal for an athlete to really pull this off?
It goes down to the product. I was in the right place, the right time, with the right product, and we used canvas shoes before that. So this is the first leather tennis shoe. So players really gravitated towards it because it was more comfortable, it lasted longer, and they performed better in it. So that's sort of how it all started. But you're seeing now athletes getting involved with other products. And my whole feeling about endorsements I've done over the years, including those shoes, is that you've got to really believe in it. If you don't believe in it, then you shouldn't be endorsing it and getting involved and promoting it.
And let's talk a little bit about the Open here. I mean, how impressive is it that Djokovic is still able to hang with the young guys and take on someone like Fritz?
It's amazing. He was like 10 years older than Fritz. He's 16 years older than Alcaraz, who'll be playing tomorrow. And it's pretty impressive what he's done. His body has held up, although he's had some nicks along the way. And even this tournament, he's had little things that have taken place where trainers have come out. But he is a tough guy, and he's worked hard. He's the most flexible guy in the world, and that's really helped him. Longevity, but he also is one of the great competitors.
What did you think of Djokovic getting booed by the fans? I almost felt like he was enjoying it, sort of provoking the fans and the reaction because of the American Fritz he was playing against.
Well, Fritz was getting some love from the New York fans, which was appropriate, and Djokovic had to deal that with most of his career. Deal with guys that he's playing against. They're either underdogs or they're in their country, or the fans seem to gravitate towards them a bit more than him. So. He's proven, though, that he probably is the GOAT. When you take down all the statistics of all the players, he's had a great career.
And we have the semifinals now upon us. Say Djokovic doesn't make it to that final. Say it's Alcaraz and Sinner.
Which can
once
happen.
again. Like, what is this? How does this rivalry stack up? Now and then also to kind of the big three, right?
Yeah, you've had the big three, and now you got the new two. They really. Elevated themselves above the rest of the field. And they may not do it, tomorrow night, but they certainly have done it the last, 2 or 3 years. They've really gone there to the point where the other players are just hoping to have a good score against them, not necessarily to beat them.
Oh yeah, it was the longest match I've ever seen, but I could not turn away from the television. Really quickly, Stan, back to the documentary. What do you want people to take from the documentary in terms of the legacy of your life? How do you want to be remembered?
Well, there's some emotion in that. There are going to be some smiles, some laughs, some intrigue, some reflection upon things that have taken place over the years. Particularly the year of '68 was tumultuous as far as things that are happening around the world, plus the fact that, Arthur won the first U.S. Open. And then there'll be some tears along the way. So generally that's what people take away from it.
Well, I know everybody's going to love this. The documentary, of course, Who is Stan Smith, is streaming right now on Hulu and ESPN+. The legend, Mr. Stan Smith, thank you so very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to talk to you guys.
Thank you. We have a lot more Front Office Sports Today headed your way, everyone, right after this quick break.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
I don't like it. Does he think he's playing on the opening kickoff? Does he want to get a handoff at that point?
I mean, he's involved in the program. Here's the problem with James Franklin.
Why do coaches even run out with the football team? Like, Andy Reid doesn't run out with the Chiefs.
Yeah, but it's the NFL. This is college
what about
kids.
High school, college basketball? Do those
they're
guys
like a
run out
father figure. Well, they used to be like a father figuring. Now the kids are making more than the coach.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
At the moment, you will not be able to do a bet on the television set. However, Emily made it very clear that's what we ultimately want to do, and we may do it sooner than later, where you will be able to put a sports bet on the service through your smart TV set with your remote control or with your voice, especially if a service like Alexa Plus, which is scheduled to go on Amazon Fire TV sets and other smart TV sets, actually happens.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today with Darryl Barnes and Baker Machado. Well, the Clippers are denying accusations by a Pablo Torre report that they circumvented, reportedly, the NBA salary cap when they allegedly paid star forward Kawhi Leonard $28 million for a no-show job. But interestingly here, Darryl, Torre is now indicating that more stories of other NBA players are on the way. So let's get to FOS reporter Colin Salau for more. So, Colin, where do things stand now after the Clippers denied that story yesterday?
Yeah, the Clippers sent a longer statement that Shams Charania from ESPN published, and essentially this statement, kind of just expounded on what they had said, continuing to deny that both Steve Ballmer and the Clippers did not circumvent the salary cap. What's interesting about their statement is a couple of things that Pablo Torre actually pointed out on X or on Twitter. He said that the original statement had the line that it is provably false that they circumvented the salary cap. That is no longer part, or was not part of their longer statement that they issued yesterday. But the Clippers did say that, again, going back to the idea that Aspiration is a fraudulent company, their co-founder was pleaded guilty to a fraud of nearly $250 million. So they pointed at that as something as well that shows that they had no idea of this and that Aspiration was the one at fault here.
So how about Mark Cuban then? He's getting involved on X. He went and quote tweeted basically Pablo's thing saying like, hey, this is false. I stand with Ballmer. I'm Team Ballmer on this. Defending the Clippers. I mean, he's no longer an NBA owner. He has no skin in the game. Like, what does this kind of tell you? Why would someone like Mark Cuban come out and say like, hey, I'll come on the show. I'll defend this?
I mean, first, I think Mark Cuban, obviously his perspective is more as an owner. So he would be able to say, hey, this is what we've done. This is what I've seen. So there could be a lot of things that could be misconstrued. I think he has always been the type of person to involve himself in anything that happens to have, business and ownership means. But what's interesting is it seems like he and Pablo are talking and maybe potentially bringing him onto the show. Pablo Torre reached out to Cuban on X as well, and Cuban responded and went to their DM. So I'm curious to see if they're going to have that conversation, because if you saw previously, Pablo Torre was called out by Bill Simmons as not an actual journalist. And then a week later, Pablo Torre spoke with Bill Simmons. That, I think, is what might happen here.
It was funny because Torre had said to Cuban, I have questions for you, which makes me think, oh gosh, what did Pablo Torre find out about Mark Cuban? But the other thing I think is interesting here, Colin, is Pablo did an interview with Dan Patrick, and he sort of indicated more stories of more players are on the way, that this is not just a Clippers Kawhi Leonard situation here. I mean, is this an existential problem in the NBA that all of a sudden other players and other teams could be ensnared in this?
Yeah, well, I think obviously we can't assume, because the Clippers are not, they're innocent until proven guilty. But I think, and I mentioned this on the show yesterday, that if there is something here, this just sets precedent for for other situations where this may have happened. I think Pablo, I've spoken to him in the past, he kind of looks for these like weird things that happen in sports and then like just deep dives into them. And I think it started here when someone probably tipped him to the idea of, hey, look at that thing that happened with Kawhi, that interesting little scenario. He's talked about the Jalen Brunson situation in New York. That was also interesting because Jalen Brunson got a pay cut of about $100 million. I don't think he's saying, hey, there's something nefarious that happened here, but he's definitely saying, I want to look into these things that are curious that are happening, because maybe there is something that exists. And if it happened in LA, maybe it happened in the other biggest market in the NBA.
Absolutely, and we'll see exactly how existential this is. And we should note the NBA says they are investigating the Clippers, and the Clippers saying in their statement they fully welcome that investigation. FOS reporter Colin Salau. Colin, thank you so much. And let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. Well, NFL Red Zone fans, that famous 7 hours of commercial-free football starts now line from host Scott Hansen. That's now a thing of the past, as the host revealed on Pat McAfee that Red Zone will now feature commercials in some capacity this season. Red Zone will include a limited number of ads during games as a split screen, with an ad and its audio playing on one half of the screen and the game in the other. Now, Red Zone experimented with commercials last season, a move that outraged fans who blamed Scott Hansen, and he was like, look, I'm just the host, don't get mad at me for this.
It's like, I don't have anything to do with this, but this is what Front Office Sports has been hearing. I mean, the NFL, it's important to say, hasn't made an official announcement.
Right.
But we're hearing that we're looking at 4 15-second ads across those 7 hours.
Right, so small amount. Yes, small potatoes at the end of the day.
1 minute total for the 7 hours of programming. So it feels like, okay, if that's the case, a lot of the outrage might just be overblown.
Right, and a lot of those trending videos you're seeing of people on TikTok of videos of like an important moment in a game cutting to a Burger King ad, likely not going to be the case. But to purists out there who spend a lot of money on NFL Red Zone and NFL Sunday Ticket would say, look, I was paying for no commercials here, but it seemed almost inevitable at some point with the amount of people that watch Red Zone that ads were going to be there somewhere. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Darryl is back tomorrow for more fun. We'll see you next time.
Bye.